I hereby call this meeting of the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee to order for Monday, June 15th, 2019. I would say that first off that we have to do our usual housekeeping in that we've got emergency exits in case of an emergency. In fact, all the doors are open, which I think James is going to shut them, but a little fresh air doesn't hurt. If there happens to be an emergency, there are exits, as you can see, through the committee room here at the end of this hallway, and of course where you came in. Washrooms are down the hall on the right, and we share them with the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. Other than that, I'd like to welcome the gallery here today. And it's a beautiful day so far, though I think there's a 30% chance of rain. But in this day and age, that's all a good thing. Also, I'd like to mention that we are conducting our business today on the traditional unceded territory of the Comox First Nation people. And that being said, we can plow right into the agenda. We have no delegations today. We do have a management report for receipt. Moving second on receipt. Any discussion on the management report?
Has there been?
I think. Where are we at? Okay, there we are. There you are.
Has there been any has there been any progress on setting up a meeting with the minister?
Over to James.
Mr. Chair and Director Lee, the letter has been sent to the minister, and we've had some communication with ministry staff, and we understand that ministry staff and Strathcona Regional District staff are meeting, and so we're awaiting the outcome of that.
Okay.
So we don't have a minister's meeting set yet, but we are awaiting further discussions.
Okay, so I'll hear from you when we need to go.
Absolutely.
Well, that begs the question, should we put in a request for a meeting at UBCM? Are you going to be UBCM?
Yes, but they only give us 15 minutes.
15 minutes is better than a slap in the face.
No, but I think we'd be better off to go to Victoria and give them a half an hour to an hour to go through this issue and get things sorted out with them.
Are you suggesting then that perhaps if staff C were on the list for a ministerial meeting at UBCM that they will forego a proper ministerial meeting in Victoria?
I'm just saying that we won't get the information that we want to convey through to them in 15 minutes, 10 or 15, and plus they're speed dating with 1,100 delegates, you know, so they won't remember anything that happens at UBCM. We need to go down there and talk to them. I'm also setting up meetings for the Vancouver Island Library Board, and we discussed whether to approach it at UBCM or not and decided we're going to Victoria. You know, we need the time to go through these issues. They're important issues. We can't speed date on them. So, and the likelihood of us getting a meeting, I don't know.
Well, yeah, ditto.
At UBCM.
Or otherwise. Well, if worst comes to worst, we can always do an application at UBCM for a ministerial meeting with staff, because that's always available. There's always time for that.
What do you think, Mr. Chair? Should we?
I think we should hedge our bets and do both.
Okay. Okay, so I'll move that a preliminary meeting regarding this issue be set up.
Let's wait for receipt on management report.
Okay.
All in favor? Motion.
And move that a preliminary discussion of this issue be raised at the UBCM if possible.
In conjunction with the request for?
In conjunction with a request for a formal meeting in Victoria at a later date.
Second. Got that? Mm-hmm. Okay. All in favor? That passes. Thank you.
Okay.
On to reports. Asset management planning update.
Move receipt.
Move receipt. The long-awaited asset management planning update. And over to CEO for introductions.
Good morning, and Chris LaRose and Zoe Berkey are both here, and I believe Zoe has a presentation.
Just an update.
Brief update on the staff report. Great. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you. We are nearing completion of significant asset management planning work for the development of detailed asset management plans for each water service area. And so we just wanted to provide some updates and kind of the next steps for this work. We're planning to bring forward the final report and recommendations for rate changes in September. And then following that report brought forward to the BCOB, we will be doing some public consultation in early October, with the hope that the new rates will be approved in October to be able to be included within the financial planning process. We're happy to answer any questions you have.
So you're doing public consultation in October?
That is our plan, yes.
Okay, so it says here October 1st, amendments to fees and charges bylaw.
First, second, and third reading, and then fourth and final in late October.
So final reading is subject to public approval? Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say subject to public approval, but will be informed by the feedback, in part by the feedback provided by the public at that October meeting. Yes.
Okay.
Anything else, Director? Okay, so to be clear, the AECom report is for the entire electoral areas, correct? Or is this just for the Black Creek Oyster Bay system?
There's a specific report for just BCOB
Okay, because
water.
they've done a lot of the work anyway up to this point, right?
Yes, they've done, yeah.
Okay, and at this point, we don't need any electoral assent because it's not establishing a new service and we're not going for a borrowing, for an increase in borrowing at this point. And that'll be a discussion we can have later, correct? If we want to move, expedite the work that needs to be done or not.
I guess that's the purpose of the asset management planning work, is to figure out, develop a much better sense of what that regular contribution to reserve needs to be to meet our long-term asset replacement needs. And the preliminary report that we've seen for this service doesn't necessarily suggest any need for borrowing in the short term, I don't think. The projects are fairly well spread out, but it is definitely looking like
A little increase, a little bump in
the revenue, so that we can increase our reserve contributions to the level that's required to meet those long-term needs. Yeah.
And what is our maximum requisition? Do we have a lot of headroom there?
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
There's
Don't ask the tough questions in the
yeah,
summertime.
there's a little bit of room. I know we're not forecasting the need to increase the maximum requisition at this point, but we'll come back with confirmation of that.
And if we did, it's probably been 5 years since the last one anyway, hasn't it? Since we had last set our
Certainly
maximum.
it was before my time.
Yeah,
Yes,
before your
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the possibility of doing a 25% bump is, if needed.
Yeah, if
Not
needed, because
so- yeah.
we've got, as in other services, there's a split, kind of a revenue split between
Yeah.
user rates and
taxation.
taxation.
We know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the user rates really drive the revenue source for this service.
Mhm.
And most of our water utility services, it's a user rate driven
Of course, it has to be.
revenue system, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Director?
So just to clarify, these are asset management improvements just to the local service area, not to proposed extensions of the local service area. You can't expect the local taxpayers to pay for outside
no.
users' improvements. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yep.
We've always done it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the infrastructure that's within the service.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. So any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call a question on receipt. All those in favor?
Thanks,
It
Lou.
carries. For information only. And now the Black Creek Oyster Bay Water Local Service Area New Water Supply Well Project Update for receipt.
No receipt.
And back over to staff, to Chris.
Through the chair. So this is a very brief report to provide an update on progress on this project. So the report provides a very brief summary of the need for the continued need for an additional supply capacity of the service, and the increasingly urgent need to initiate the work if we are to make use of the grant funding that was achieved for this project. Arguably, we're kind of at that threshold right now. If we starting if we are to start the well construction site, I think we're around the time right now where we would have a feasible chance of completing it by the March 2020 deadline. Beyond now, we'll start to eat into that grant funding because it won't be possible to complete on time. So since the last meeting, we have, as James mentioned, we have sent the letter to the province seeking clarification and some help. And then on June 19th, our CAO, Russell Dyson, sent a letter to the SRD CAO summarizing the need and urgency of SRD support for the project, the significant effort undertaken by us to date to satisfy the SRD concerns, trying to reach terms on an access agreement, the memorandum of understanding, all the study work, the commitment to continued collaboration on water planning in the aquifer, and an appeal to be considered as a delegation to the SRD board. As of the date of publishing and as of today, the SRD has not responded to that letter. And that's it for the update.
So no response. So the only response we've got over the last 3 years is that one letter from Chair Babchuk, correct?
Yeah, we have had a dialogue between staff.
Nothing in the public,
but,
though.
But in the public, that would be the one that comes to mind.
That's the one
Yeah.
letter response over 3 years. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the director? If I may, then I'll just jump in. On April this year, CVR staff and GW Solutions attended a meeting with the Ministry of Forest Lands, Natural Resources, Operations, and Rural Development to better understand what would be required to develop and improve understanding of EFN and the water restrictions and what it looked like if demand from the Oyster River National Park increased, and also servicing the issue of servicing Northern Area D. And my understanding is CVR staff's takeaway from this meeting was that based on the above points, which is the connectivity of the aquifer between the river and the groundwater wells, the effect on groundwater from the park on the temperature of the Oyster River, and review of other demands on the river, and the fact that they're concerned with fish flows, that the CVRDF's takeaway was that any additional water license capacity from the Oyster River, including from nearby groundwater wells that are deemed to be connected to the river, is not likely to be improved. Were you at that meeting yourself?
Yep.
Was that your takeaway on that?
That was
as
my
well?
takeaway, yeah.
That's your report,
That's
isn't
my
it?
words, yeah.
Yeah, it's Crystal Rose.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, we're not asking for any increase in our water license on this service.
That's correct. So
Just a assurance of capacity when we need the, for summer flows, summer water demands and whatever.
So at that same meeting, we did confirm the approach for this well would be to, so we have this roughly 500,000 cubic meter per year license for the river infiltration gallery. So the approach we're taking with this new groundwater well would be to transfer some of that capacity over to this new well, so thereby not increasing our total withdrawal capacity from the river. So yes, no new capacity as a result of this project here. Yeah, no new license capacity as a result of this project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has been made clear to the SRD, correct? In the letter?
Yes, in
Because
Russell's recent letter, yeah.
Okay, and I personally and in a social function, reiterated that to the chair of the SRD as well. Okay. Director Lee.
I have a motion.
Well, we're still on receipt.
Okay.
You're going to do an action item? Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Madam Lee? Okay, well, let's vote on receipt then. All in favor on that? That carries. And a motion?
Motion that the Black Creek Oyster Bay Service, I have this written out, James, if you want it. Okay, that the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee advised the CVRD Board that the committee is in favor of proceeding as soon as possible with the third well project on the aquifer north of the Oyster, and that with regard to distribution of the third well water, the CVRD Board is advised to await the completion of the third well to prove the availability of water, the environmental effect on the Oyster River, and that any water allocation to any water from this well will be decided once the well is in production.
By the BCOB.
Yeah, will be decided by the BCOB
Yes.
or
Not
by the CVRD Board, ultimately, right?
ultimately. But they don't
By-
get to vote on it.
It's under the service.
It's under the service, okay. So as long as that's,
By the service
Yeah.
area.
as long as that's absolutely clear that it's our service
Will be
area.
decided by the service area once the well is in production. So then that eliminates all the pressure from all the different geographic areas that are demanding water right now, knowing that this third well is coming up, that we have control of this water system and we will wait and see. We always have the ability, once the well is drilled and once it's in production, if it looks like it's negatively impacting the estuary and the flow for fish habitat and whatnot, we always have the option of shutting the well off after it's producing, when we need to. But having the well there when we need it and maybe being able to store some of the water in the winter, that will help us provide extra water for the service area. And I don't think we should be putting the cart before the horse and discussing with any groups or any people who's going to get that water. That water belongs to BCOB and the CVRD, and that water will be distributed according to the CVRD board decisions.
Well, the water license and the infrastructure are owned by the
Yeah.
participants.
So that's my
Period.
motion.
Are we okay with the motion? You want a written copy of it?
Yeah, we'll take that.
Okay. Yeah, I think GW Solutions made it fairly plain that, this is all you got, and you better use it wisely. I think we've been very astute in our management of this resource. We've been very fiscally prudent in our management of this resource. And the residents have responded whenever there's, with their consumption or lack of consumption whenever it's needed. So, I mean, it all speaks to good management in my mind, so.
And I think it's really important for both of us directors on the BCOB Services Committee to provide to the public our direction on the well. We want to proceed with the well project. And so let's do it. Let's just do it. And we can decide later, once we see the well in production, how much water we have to spare to distribute anywhere else, or do a distribution study later or something. But there's now several people who've got wind that we're looking, that we might have extra water. And I'm getting calls from Glenmore Road, Watuco, all over the place. So if we just wait and get the well in production, we can see where we want to direct that water.
I'll second that then. Any further discussion? On the motion by Director Lee, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Okay, any new business? Late breaking items? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded, all in favor? Thank you very much, Director
Thank
Lee.
you.
Coming all this